two retirees with the exact same $1 million can hand the government tens of thousands of dollars apart in taxes, just based on which account they spend first. Same savings, same lifestyle, wildly different bill. The sequence is the whole secret. Picture a real and very common one. A retiree will call Frank does what feels obviously smart. He leaves his big traditional 401k completely untouched, lets it grow, and lives off other money. It feels responsible, that account keeps compounding, why disturb it? Then he turns 73, and the trap he never saw coming snaps shut. Because at 73 under current rules, the government forces money out of those traditional accounts whether Frank needs it or not. It's called a required minimum distribution, an RMD. And since Frank let that 401k grow huge and untouched for years, the forced withdrawal is enormous. It stacks right on top of his Social Security and his pension, and suddenly he's shoved into a much higher tax bracket than he ever planned for. It gets worse from there. That higher income means more of his Social Security becomes taxable. It also spikes his Medicare premium through a surcharge called IRMAA. One oversized withdrawal quietly raised 3 separate bills at the same time: his income tax, his Social Security tax, and his Medicare cost, all of it avoidable. All of it baked in years earlier by one innocent decision about which account to leave alone. Frank isn't a rare case. Americans hold trillions of dollars inside traditional 401ks and IRAs, all of it loaded with deferred taxes nobody has paid yet. For most retirees, that hidden tax bill is the single biggest one they'll ever face. So let's zoom out from Frank and turn this into something you can actually use. It starts with knowing your buckets, because there are really 3 flavors of retirement money, and each one hands you the tax bill at a different time. The first is taxable, your regular brokerage account and savings. You already paid tax on this money, so when you sell investments you only owe tax on the gains, often at low long-term capital gains rates. This bucket is gentle. The second is tax-deferred, your traditional 401k and traditional IRA, the kind that got Frank. You never pay tax on this money, so every dollar you pull out counts as ordinary income, taxed like a paycheck. The government is a silent partner in this one. The third is tax-free, your Roth IRA and Roth 401k. You already paid the tax going in, so every dollar of growth comes out completely tax-free. This bucket is pure gold, and you protect it. So which goes first? The classic, time-tested rule of thumb is taxable first, tax-deferred second, tax-free Roth last. Taxable, then traditional, then Roth. Taxable first because the tax hit is usually small, just capital gains on the growth, and spending it lets your sheltered accounts keep compounding untouched. Roth last because it grows tax-free forever, has no required withdrawals during your lifetime, and it's the best money to leave to your kids someday. The traditional account sits in the middle because, as Frank learned the hard way, you're forced to deal with it eventually, so you spend it down in the middle years to soften that future blow. But that tidy order is a starting point, not a law. Followed blindly, it's exactly what blew up on Frank. The smarter play is what planners call the blended strategy. Instead of fully draining one bucket before touching the next, you sip from more than one at the same time. Here's where it pays off. Think about those early retirement years after you stop working but before Social Security and RMDs kick in. Your income is naturally low. That window is a golden opportunity, and most people sleepwalk right past it. In that low-income window, you deliberately pull some money from your traditional 401k, just enough to fill up the cheap lower tax brackets, voluntarily paying a little tax now to dodge a giant tax bomb later. That's also when Roth conversions come in. You move money from your traditional IRA into your Roth during those low years, pay the tax now at a low rate, and that money grows tax-free forever after. Done right, this shrinks your future traditional balance, which shrinks those forced RMDs, which keeps you in lower brackets for life. You're smoothing your taxes across decades, instead of getting ambushed by one spike at 73, exactly the spike that hit Frank. And this isn't a rounding error. Vanguard's research has estimated that a smart withdrawal sequence and good tax management can add up to roughly an extra 1% of return per year. Over a long retirement, that's not pocket change, that's life-changing money. So here's how you put it to work. First, map your 3 buckets. Write down exactly how much sits in taxable, in traditional, and in Roth, because you can't plan what you can't see. Second, find your low-income years, usually the stretch between when you stop working and when Social Security or RMDs begin, and circle them. That's your window for cheap Roth conversions. Third, don't ignore your traditional account for decades the way Frank did. Sip from it in those low years on purpose. A little tax now beats a tax avalanche later. Fourth, protect your Roth. Let it be the last bucket you touch since it compounds tax-free, has no lifetime RMDs, and is the kindest inheritance you can leave. Fifth, watch the cliffs. Certain income thresholds trigger nasty jumps like the IRMAA surcharge, more taxable Social Security, lost credits, so aim to fill a bracket right up to the line, not blow past it. And one more, if you have a health savings account, an HSA, treat it like a stealth retirement bucket. After 65, you can spend it on anything and qualified medical costs, stay tax-free, so many planners save it for late. Now, I won't pretend this is one size fits all. The exact best order depends on your bracket, your account sizes, your state, and your goals. The big idea is simply this: be intentional about the sequence instead of grabbing whatever's nearest. Because the cost of winging it is brutal, pull from the wrong bucket at the wrong time, and you can hand the government an extra car's worth of money every single year, completely by accident, money that should have stayed yours. And you don't have to be a tax expert to win at this. You just have to know the buckets exist, know they're taxed differently, and refuse to drain them in a careless, random order. This is genuinely one of the highest value money decisions of your whole life. A single afternoon of planning or one good session with a fee-only advisor can quietly protect tens of thousands of dollars. Think of it like a faucet system. You're not just spending money, you're controlling which pipe it flows from and when. Open the cheap taps in the cheap years and keep the precious tax-free tap closed as long as you can. So remember the three buckets: taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free. Remember the classic order: taxable first, traditional second, Roth last, and remember that blending usually beats it, sipping from several at once to control your bracket every year. Remember the villain, Frank's RMD time bomb at 73, that spikes your taxes, your Medicare premium, and your Social Security taxes all at once. And remember the hero, those low-income early years where Roth conversions are dirt cheap. Now I'm curious about you, and I read every comment down there. Two things: which bucket are you planning to drain first, and roughly how big is your traditional 401k or IRA compared to your Roth? You don't have to post exact dollars, even a ballpark or your situation tells the story, and someone reading might recognize Frank's mistake in their own plan. If this made the whole withdrawal puzzle finally click, hit like so, more retirees stumble onto it, and subscribe so the next money lesson lands in your feed. See you in the next one.